Hello anime and manga fans, I'm Kyle Glockner and welcome back to another episode of Animanga. If you remember our Halloween special from last semester, you might remember my review of Elfen Lied where I talked about how I don't think anime does horror very well. There's a lot of reasons behind this, and I touched on a couple of them in the review, but it would be way too much to cover all those reasons in depth with the time that I have. But last year, right around that time actually, there was one show that really caught my eye that made me start to rethink how anime does horror. So today, I'll be reviewing Happy Sugar Life.
感情がキラキラ今はキラキラあなただけが全てさこの甘い世界嘘になるようなそれ以外のことなんて消してしまう
Happy Sugar Life tells the story of Sato Matsuzaka, a high school girl who lives in her apartment with Shio Kobe, a young girl who initially appears to be Sato's younger sister or maybe a cousin. Very early on, we learn the twisted truth of the situation, that Sato has murdered the previous inhabitants of their apartment and has kidnapped Shio, keeping her in the apartment and not letting her go outside. This is one of those special shows that hooked me right from episode 1. From the get-go, I absolutely love the contrast between the cute and innocent appearance of Sato and Shio and the dark tone the show takes on. Part of my problem with horror in anime is that I feel like a lot of the times, shows have trouble hitting the right tone of the show to build tension, instill fear, and generally make you feel, well, afraid. At a first glance, you'd think Happy Sugar Life wouldn't be able to pull this off, but it's the contradictory aspects of it that make it terrifying. It manages to pull off a different type of horror than we'd normally expect, which is why I think this show does a very good job of the type of horror that I've come to believe anime does very well, which is psychological horror. For anyone who doesn't know, psychological horror refers to a subgenre of horror that relies on mental, emotional, and psychological states to unsettle or frighten its audience. Psychological horror is where I believe anime shines when it comes to horror, and I would love for more series to try to take advantage of the strengths the medium has with this particular subgenre. In regard to this show in particular, when I was watching this show, I felt genuinely uncomfortable, which is not something I can say about many other psychological horror series. Throughout each episode, I legitimately felt a knot in my stomach that made me unsure how to feel during certain events. To put it lightly, this show is f***ed up. The ending scene of episode 7 in particular left me with a wide-eyed stare at my TV that made me ask the question, did I enjoy what I just watched? And in a twisted sense, that's actually how I knew I was truly enjoying the show. As I said before, the point of psychological horror is to make you feel uncomfortable. Rather than spooking you with a jump scare or grossing you out with a grotesque murder, a psychological horror attacks your fears, those things that make your skin crawl, the thoughts that make you pick up your pace when you hear a sudden noise when you're walking. The goal of this subgenre is to make you feel the way that I felt, so I knew that it was a good show. Part of what helped this show succeed as a psychological horror, like I mentioned before, is the contrast between the cutesy art style and the darker moments of the show. But part of what helps play to that strength is the characters themselves, specifically Sato. We meet Sato as a normal high school girl who works at a cosplay cafe. Most of the time when she interacts with someone, she comes off as just that, a sweet, caring, everyday high school girl with an innocent charm that would rival most moe protagonists. During the very first episode, however, we start to see how she can change her personality at the drop of a hat. Her demeanor goes from fluffy and sweet to cold and ruthless, which tended to be visually noted by constricting her pupils. Part of why this is so terrifying is because we know from the first episode that Sato is capable of murder, and since we know how far she has gone and could go again, seeing her personality flip brings a sense of uncertainty and dread to each scene, and really just makes you wonder how it's gonna play out. In general, you never really have a chance to be certain how you feel about Sato morally, which is where my next point comes in. Happy Sugar Life does a great job of blurring the moral lines of sympathy. We learn throughout the show that Sato didn't exactly have a great childhood, which is what helped turn her into the person she is today. After learning everything there was to learn about Sato, including her past, her intentions, and her genuine feelings towards Shio, I gotta say that it was hard not to sympathize with her on a base level. Where this show really blurs those moral lines is when you factor in Sato's actions to meet her desired ends. Sato lies, she hurts people, she manipulates them, she even kills people that are too much of a threat to her. There is no question that what she does is wrong, but there's still that little part of me that really does feel for her and wants her to be happy. And whether you feel the same way or not is completely up to you. That's part of the beauty of this show. Your own feelings of sympathy towards any of the characters, whether it's Sato trying to find love and happiness, Shio looking for a place to belong, Asahi attempting to rebuild his home life, Taiyo overcoming his past trauma, or any of the other characters' goals is completely up to you and how you feel about the actions they take given their circumstances. Overall, Happy Sugar Life is a fantastic show that I recommend to anyone looking for a break from the monotony of carefree harems or lighthearted dramas. Definitely don't watch it if you're easily disturbed, as I personally know a couple people who were too disturbed to watch the entire show. Maybe that says something about me as a person? Probably doesn't mean anything. Happy Sugar Life was directed by Keizo Kusakawa and Nobuyushi Nagayama, written by Toko Machida, and animated by Studio Elo'za, as their first and only show, I should add. The manga was written by Tomoyaki Kagesura. If you're looking for a fantastic show to make you question your moral standings, this show's the one for you. But that's all the time I have for today, so let me know what you think by tweeting me at ZTV Goofing Off using the hashtag Animanga. Until then, I'm Kyle Glockner, this has been Animanga.